in terms of the platform and in terms of pulling her further to the left. It's going to make it even harder for her to win the election, because then she's going to be a hardcore leftist along with all of her integrity and criminality issues as well. Do we have time? We've got Richard Reeves in New Jersey. Do we have time, Marcos, to go to Richard before we go to break?
Yeah, we're going to break at 8:58 here.
All right.
We'll get him on and we'll hold him over.
Okay. Leanne, anything real quickly you want to tell us before we go to Richard to sum up? And are we going to be talking to you later?
Yeah, we'll have some reports coming your way. We're going to get some people coming out of the polling locations and find out, how do they feel about the fact that their votes don't count. And we're going to try and attend this Hillary Clinton after party. So
all 10 of you.
That's going to be so fun. That should be a lot of fun. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll check in for the festivities. Thank you so much, Leanne McAdoo in California. Let's go now to Richard Reeves in New Jersey. Richard.
All right, David, thank you. Well, from one side of the country to the other.
That's right.
I tell you, and I'm here to echo basically what Leanne was saying, that it is difficult at these polling locations to find people that are willing to admit to being Trump voters. Most of them, they're not going to tell you. And it seems like people are more willing to admit that, hey, I want to vote for Bernie, or I have voted for Bernie, I have voted for Hillary. It does seem like that's a lot easier task. But
well, they've been told by the media that that's okay. And even when they do the public opinion polling, where they call people up, they said, well, we know that these results are a bit skewed because people are even afraid to admit to somebody over the telephone that they are a Trump supporter. I mean, certainly after what we've seen in California, if you've got a Trump T-shirt on, you might be hunted down and beaten up. That's what we saw at all these rallies. So I can understand people doing it. They're afraid for their safety. It's not just that they are afraid that people are going to say nasty things to them.
Exactly, and they're worried that since they may not be familiar with INFOWARS, in some cases they're thinking, well, this left-stream media here, they're going to harpoon me on their program and make me look like an idiot. So that's another thing. But anyway, Donald Trump just spoke here, as you guys were showing on the broadcast earlier. And one key thing, I don't know if you guys have discussed it yet, but one key thing that he said a lot of key things, but one of them that really caught my attention is how that he said that Hillary Clinton used the State Department as her own private hedge fund.
Yes, great quote.
So the gloves are so off. The gloves are so off. And, he announced it next Monday or Tuesday, somewhere early next week, he's going to have another press conference. And I think he's going to be just like a WWE wrestler, like The Rock or Steve Austin or Triple H or somebody like that, and he's going to lay the smack down on Hillary's candy hind end.
That's right. He's not even going to wait for the nomination formalities at the convention. He's going on it next week. That's the amazing thing. The other thing that I heard, we didn't hear all of it, Richard, but one of the things that I thought was very key when we first came in, he was talking about how he was not going to compromise on this issue, just as he's not going to compromise on other issues. In other words, if he's going to compromise on these personal integrity issues that are affecting him right now, if he was that kind of a person, like a Paul Ryan, like a Mitch McConnell, like all these establishment politicians, then he's going to compromise for political gain on other issues that are going to be important to the general public. And I thought that was a very effective statement that he made, and something that really, I think, spoke well of his integrity. He's taking a lot of heat for the way he worded this, and I wish that he had mentioned the fact that this judge was La Raza and not just said Mexican heritage, because Newt Gingrich and the rest of these guys are saying, hey, he's from Indiana. Newt Gingrich says, well, if you come to America, you get to be an American citizen. It's like, well, actually, Newt, we need to have a discussion about that, don't we? But go ahead, Richard.
And as Alex was talking about here in previous broadcasts, saying that I think Trump just instinctively does it, where he just lays some raw meat out, he lays some bait out, he waits for the sharks of the mainstream NWO controlled media to come in, and then he eviscerates them. So I think that's what's going to happen. They think they're going to come in, a bunch of hungry sharks coming in for a baby whale, and all of a sudden they're going to be facing, killer whale Donald Trump. So,
the bottom line is he's right on this issue, Richard, just like he was right on the issue when the Washington Post did that hit piece on him, trying to show him as a sexual predator. And they misconstrued, they took out of context, they implied motives to these women that they came back and held press conferences and said, that was not, they took my words out of context. I was very complimentary of Donald Trump. I had absolutely no problem with the way that he treated me. Or in one case, she said, I wrote a book. They took out of context the paragraph there, right down on that same page. I said great things about Donald Trump. They didn't report that. I told them I didn't even want to talk to them, so they went back and they took quotes out of her book and took them out of context to attack him. So all that stuff blew up in their face. And now we've had, for several days, we've had all these Republicans coming out here. We've had a guy who's running in Illinois unendorse Donald Trump, saying, I'm going to distance myself from Donald Trump. And they're going to be left hung out to dry because people are going to look at what this judge did in terms of releasing that. He released all of this private conversation because the Washington Post, with their army of 20-plus reporters who are going to invent stuff about Donald Trump, wanted it from this judge. So he said, sure, here it is. And, you know, as I was coming in here, I just heard the State Department say they're not going to comply with the FOIA requests and the legal request for Hillary Clinton's email information from the State Department for 75 years. 75 years. They're going to take that long. And yet this judge turned this over immediately to these people. That shows an incredible bias, and he was simply talking about what motivates this judge. Besides his political bias, he also has a bias because he's in the race, La Raza, La Ku Klux Klan.
Absolutely. Well, and every time things like this have happened, it's always ended up being in Donald Trump's favor. He's always boomeranged it back. So we can
because he's been right.
Expect that, right, exactly. He's been right. And so we can expect that to happen again. And above all that, you know, mixed in with that is, you know, how he just keeps burning the press. The NWO, mainstream, lamestream, controlled press just keeps destroying itself, keeps showing it to be liars. I mean, that's something that the American people, the ones that are in the know about the globalist conspiracy that we've got going on, they've been fighting the mainstream press for years that have been dictating us, you know, who's going to be the president, who are going to be the nominees, who's going to be
Richard.
your congressman.
We've got to go to break, Richard. We're going to hang on. We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back with Richard Reeves, another one of our reporters. He's reporting from New Jersey. He was just there at the Donald Trump press conference. We'll be right back with Richard Reeves, with Jakari Jackson, and I'm David Knight. Stay with us.
This message is not just addressed to my fellow Americans, but addressed to people across the world of every race, color, and creed who believe in free speech, enshrined here in our republic as the First Amendment. It's the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights because it is the most important. The right to speak, the right to publish, the right to assemble, the right to petition, the right to practice your own religion and not having a state-run or authorized system. We have seen Facebook, Google, Twitter, and other media platforms increasingly censor even mainline libertarian and conservative ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, Facebook, if it's able to successfully get away with censoring a wide spectrum of ideas that the establishment doesn't agree with, not just conservatives, will set a mega massive precedent. Facebook's over a third of the internet. Just think about that, of the traffic and people visiting things. And then it's over. You think it's bad that communist China with 1,300,000,000 people is censoring? Zuckerberg, who calls his users dumb effers, has been meeting with the Chinese censorship leadership, openly trying to tweak it. He met with Merkel and openly in a hot mic said, don't worry, I'm going to start suppressing and censoring people. They report when someone criticizes open borders to the German government, and they come and arrest you. This is a global phenomenon that's taking place right now. They're passing laws in Canada to arrest people that criticize transgender. Well, that's your free speech. It's not hate propaganda, as they call it. If they set the precedent on these issues, they will basically ban any other type of speech that the globalists don't want. This is the ultimate threat to humanity. This is worse than what we saw in the Soviet Union. This is right out of Nazi Germany or right out of Maoist China. So we're fighting for free speech. When you spread the word about INFOWARS.com, our videos, our stories, our reports, and when you post it on different platforms, that circumvents their AI systems that are trying to restrict the flow of information. We stand together or we hang separate. Another thing we're doing is not just battling to stop the censorship, we're also building other platforms, getting on as many third-party systems as there are out there and spreading the word of basic free market liberty and human empowerment and the new renaissance. But also, the experts I've talked to said, Alex, you missed the boat. You've been a pioneer in many ways, but you haven't promoted email. And I said, yeah, I don't ever really market on email. I just, it's low tech. And they're like, no. That's what's going to be hard to censor. Even if the internet kill switch comes into place, there are systems and there are developments that make it very hard still to stop email and to stop that information being sent over networks, you name it. So it's essential that everybody go to INFOWARS.com/newsletter to get exclusive articles, videos, promo codes, sometimes the shopping cart like we had a few weeks ago with Hillary for Prison, 50% off. I mean, there are some big discounts we send to incentivize people, and plus you're some of the most hardcore patriots. You can send the email and the newsletter on with exclusive videos and articles many days. So that's another great reason. But overall, it's so that we have direct contact with fellow patriots out there around the world. And if they try to start shutting our websites down and other things, which they've tried to do, and kick us off Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it, we'll be able to send you direct videos that you can then send on to others. We've all got to start thinking about the censorship and actively fighting it, getting more active and not taking independent, liberty-based media for granted, which I know you don't do, but really having a sense of urgency and getting the info out more while building new avenues on cutting-edge tech and cutting-edge platforms, but also old tech like email. So please join hundreds of thousands of others that have been signing up every few months at INFOWARS.com/newsletter. And you can also spread the word about our free feeds and more, podcasts, Droid apps, iPhone apps. It's all free at INFOWARS.com/show.
Welcome back to the InfoWars Nightly News live coverage of the final set of 6 presidential primaries. And you just saw those states count down there on the graphic as we were coming in with a lead in. We've had results from New Jersey, where Hillary Clinton has won that by a large margin. And we also have results from the next group of states, North Dakota, South Dakota, and New Mexico. Now, South Dakota and New Mexico both went for Hillary, about the same amount. 54-46 in both states at this point. They haven't called it for Hillary, but she has a very large lead at this point. In North Dakota, however, it was the opposite. Bernie won resoundingly in North Dakota. Bernie Sanders won North Dakota 63-24%. They have called that for Bernie Sanders. Now with me is Jakari Jackson, and we have our reporter Richard Reeves in New Jersey. And Jakari Jackson had a couple of questions for you, Richard.
Yeah, before I ask my question to Richard, we won't give out the call number. It is 1-877-789-ALEX. That is 1-877-789-2539. We'll be taking your calls here just in a little bit. Now, Richard, I know one of the hot topics has been going on with Trump is that of Newt Gingrich. As David and I were discussing a little bit earlier in the broadcast, we were both very surprised when we saw Newt early in the campaign for Trump come out and say these very nice things. We weren't exactly sure why he was doing that. And as David said, that you have to get behind somebody before you can stab them in the back. And now we see this report from Kit Daniels here today talking about how Trump refused a reported $200 million to pick Gingrich as his VP. So with this in mind, do you have any idea who Trump might pick as his VP?
Well, I would have to look into it some more on that. You know, some people said somebody like Jeff Sessions. I know that there's the woman governor of Oklahoma and New Mexico that have been rumored about. But, you know, this deal on Newt Gingrich, that's such a big deal. That's a huge deal. I mean, they've been talking about that the Republican campaign for president and the other race, that they're talking about that they need $1 billion. And here was Sheldon Adelson saying that, hey, $200 million, commit to have Newt Gingrich as the VP, and Trump says no, thank you. So how huge is that? That's just so big that he did that, and that's one thing that I've been watching for months is Newt Gingrich. We've seen him on Fox, on O'Reilly, on Kelly, on Hannity, cozying up, being friendly, being the New World Order good cop. I remember Newt Gingrich back from the 90s. He was supposed to come in and try to help roll back NAFTA and GATT, made these